The Supreme Overlord Zarkon the Eternal sat on his crystalline throne, watching the newest additions to his private collection through floating holographic screens. His 4 eyes, each the size of a dinner plate, blinked independently as he observed the small creatures in their new habitat. The Zarathi ruler stood 12 feet tall, his gray-scaled skin shimmering under the purple lights of his observation chamber. His collection was his pride, young specimens from every species his empire had conquered or protected. Earth had become a protectorate just 6 months ago. The humans barely avoided complete conquest by agreeing to share their resources and accept Zarathi oversight. They were a young species, barely spacefaring, with primitive technology compared to the might of the Zarathi, empire that spanned 1,000-star systems. Zarkon had decided to add human children to his collection during what the humans called a cultural exchange program at Luna Station, Earth's moon base. It had been remarkably easy. 4 young humans, away from their home planet for an educational trip, simply disappeared during a scheduled rest period. The human authorities were told there had been an unfortunate accident involving an airlock malfunction. The Zarathi Empire sent official condolences and a small compensation payment. The matter was closed. Now these 4 human children lived in a specially designed habitat aboard Zarkon's personal space station. The habitat was luxurious by any standard. Multiple rooms, Earth-like atmosphere and gravity, entertainment systems, comfortable furniture, even a small garden with real Earth plants. It was a cage, but a golden one. Maya Chen, 12 years old with long black hair and clever dark eyes, sat at a table taking apart what looked like a broken communication device. Her small fingers worked with surprising precision as she sorted the components into neat piles. She barely looked up when the hidden cameras adjusted their focus on her. "Jack, can you pass me that tool?" she asked calmly. Jackson Roberts, 11 years old with sandy brown hair and an athletic build unusual for his age, handed her a small device from across the room. He moved with the controlled grace of someone much older, his green eyes constantly scanning their environment. "Sure thing, Maya. Find anything interesting?" "Maybe," Maya replied, holding up a tiny component to the light. "These Zarathi use quantum entanglement in the strangest way. It's almost like they're afraid of pushing the technology to its limits." 10-year-old Amara Okonkwo looked up from where she was playing what appeared to be a complex holographic board game against the habitat's computer. Her dark skin seemed to glow with health, and her brown eyes sparkled with an intelligence that seemed far beyond her years. That's because they don't understand the underlying mathematics properly. Their entire approach is based on a flawed theorem from 300 cycles ago. "How could you possibly know that?" Jack asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't really surprised. Amara shrugged, moving a holographic piece that caused the computer to freeze for several seconds. "It's obvious if you look at the pattern. They're using base 8 calculations when the universe clearly prefers base 12 for quantum mechanics. Even Leo figured that out." 9-year-old Leo Petrov, the youngest and smallest of the group, sat in a corner surrounded by floating holographic displays showing various alien texts. His pale blue eyes moved impossibly fast across the screens, absorbing information at a rate that would have concerned any observer paying close attention. His curly red hair bounced as he nodded enthusiastically. The Zarathi Standard Codex, version 17.4, subsection 881 clearly states that quantum entanglement efficiency peaks at 74.2%, Leo said without looking up. "But that's only true if you ignore the gravitational constant variations in subspace. My dad Marcus always says that ignoring gravity is like trying to swim without acknowledging the water." Maya smiled slightly, speaking directly to one of the cameras. "Your recording devices are quite good, Overlord Zarkon. Mom would love to see the specifications. She collects surveillance technology as a hobby." In his observation chamber, Zarkon's assistant, a smaller Zarathi named Veltor, shifted nervously. "Supreme Overlord, the human young one. She knows you're watching." "Impossible," Zarkon rumbled, his voice like distant thunder. "The surveillance system is invisible to primitive species. They cannot detect our quantum-shifted cameras." But even as he spoke, all 4 children turned and waved at the exact location of the hidden cameras in their habitat. "Hello, Mr. Overlord," Leo called out cheerfully. "This is a very nice room. Much better than the one at the Centauri diplomatic station. That one smelled like sulfur." Veltor checked his datapad with trembling claws. Supreme Overlord. There is no record of these children ever visiting the Centauri diplomatic station. In fact, according to our files, this is their first time leaving Earth's solar system. Then the child is lying or confused, Zarkon said, but his four eyes narrowed with the first hint of unease. Back in the habitat, Jack had started his exercise routine. The Zarathi had provided equipment based on standard human physical requirements. Jack was doing pull-ups and Veltor dutifully counted. At 50, the assistant expected the young human to tire. At 100, he began rechecking the gravity settings. At 200, he ran a full diagnostic. Supreme Overlord, Veltor whispered. The human child has exceeded baseline human strength parameters by 300%. This should not be possible for their species at this age. Meanwhile, Amara had grown bored with the game after winning 17 consecutive times against the habitat's most advanced AI. She wandered over to Maya's table. Can I help? Mom and Dad always say I should help with technical projects. They say it's good practice for conflict resolution. Sure, Maya said, handing her sister a circuit board. Your parents work in conflict resolution? Amara giggled, a sound that somehow sent chills through every Zarathi monitoring the feed. That's one way to put it. They resolve conflicts before they start. Sometimes they resolve them before anyone even knows there was going to be a conflict. Leo had abandoned his reading and was now standing by the habitat's main door, pressing his small hand against the access panel. The security code is really simple, he announced to no one in particular. It's just a 47-digit rotating cipher based on prime numbers. My father Alexei taught me these when I was 4. The door didn't open, but every security alert in the facility suddenly activated and then immediately deactivated. Leo, Jack said calmly, still doing pull-ups without any sign of fatigue. You're scaring our hosts. Oh, Leo looked genuinely apologetic. Sorry, Mr. Overlord. I didn't mean to access your entire security network. It just sort of happened. Like that time I accidentally downloaded the entire Earth internet into my head. Dad Marcus was so mad. In his chamber, Zarkon stood from his throne for the first time in cycles. His massive form towered even higher, his scales darkening with agitation. Veltor, run a full background check on these children's parents. I want to know everything. At once, Supreme Overlord, Veltor said, his claws clicking against his data pad. After a moment, he made a confused sound. That's strange. What is strange? The records, Supreme Overlord. They exist, but they're too perfect, too normal. Dr. Sarah Chen, listed as a university professor. Admiral James Roberts, retired military, now teaches at a flight academy. The Okonkwo parents, diplomatic corps, mid-level administrators. The Petrov-Wade family, librarians and data analysts. And why is that strange? Because, Supreme Overlord, nobody is this normal. Every detail is exactly what you'd expect, with no anomalies, no inconsistencies, no interesting details. It's as if someone created the perfect boring background to avoid attention. Zarkon's 4 eyes all focused on the main screen showing the 4 children. Maya had successfully rebuilt the communication device and was now improving it. Jack had finally stopped exercising after 300 pull-ups, not from exhaustion but from boredom. Amara was teaching Leo a game that seemed to involve predicting random number sequences with disturbing accuracy. And all 4 of them, at exactly the same moment, looked directly at the cameras and smiled. Veltor, Zarkon said slowly, increase security around the habitat. Yes, Supreme Overlord. May I ask why? Zarkon's scales shifted to a color Veltor had never seen before. Something between purple and silver, the color of unease. Because I'm beginning to suspect that we haven't captured 4 human children. We've invited something else entirely into our home. 2 weeks had passed since the human children arrived at Zarkon's collection, and the entire station was on edge. The Zarathi staff whispered in the corridors, jumped at shadows, and found excuses to avoid the sector where the human habitat was located. Those assigned to monitor the children had started requesting transfers. 3 had already been granted psychological leave. The problems had started small. On the 3rd day, every screen in the station displayed a cheerful, "Good morning" message in perfect Zarathi script signed Love, Leo. The 9-year-old claimed he was just trying to be friendly and didn't know how his greeting had accessed the station's main communication array. On the 5th day, Maya had asked for more advanced tools for her hobby projects. When denied, she shrugged and said, "That's okay. I'll make do." Within hours, she had somehow converted the habitat's food processor into a miniature particle accelerator. She was using it to create new elements when the panicked staff shut it down. I was just making some carbon isotopes, Maya had explained calmly. Mom taught me the process when I was 7. She said understanding matter at the subatomic level is essential for any growing girl. Dr. Krexeval, the station's chief scientist, had stared at the readings in disbelief. She created element 119. That's theoretically impossible with this equipment. It's impossible with any equipment we have. On day 8, Jack had politely asked if he could spar with some security guards for exercise. Zarkhan, curious about human combat capabilities, had approved it. The boy had defeated 12 of the Empire's finest warriors in hand-to-hand combat, using martial arts techniques that seemed to blend styles from across the galaxy. "Where did you learn Vraxian nerve strikes?" the guard captain had demanded, nursing a paralyzed arm. "My dad collects fighting styles," Jack had replied with a friendly smile. "He says the best defense is knowing every possible offense. Want me to show you the countermove?" But it was Amara who had caused the most confusion. She'd requested access to historical databases for light reading. Within days, she was correcting errors in 1,000-year-old military campaigns, pointing out logical flaws in celebrated Zerathi strategies, and suggesting improvements to their economic models. "Your third galactic expansion war was won by accident," she'd told a horrified military historian through the habitat's communication screen. "If the Korvax had noticed the pattern in your fleet movements 3 cycles earlier, the entire Empire would have collapsed. Here, let me show you the 17 different ways they could have defeated you." Now, in the middle of the 3rd week, Zarkhan himself stood before the habitat's observation window, his massive form casting shadows in the corridor. Inside, the 4 children were having what appeared to be a completely normal breakfast. "Pass the juice, please," Leo asked, and Maya handed him a container without looking up from the device she was building. "What's that supposed to be?" Jack asked, buttering something that looked like Earth toast. "Quantum communicator," Maya replied casually. "The standard ones here have a range limit of about 50 light-years. This one should reach anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously." "Cool," Amara said, solving a 9-dimensional puzzle cube while eating cereal. "Mom has one like that. She keeps it in her purse." Zarkhan's scales rippled with unease. He turned to Veltor, who was clutching his data pad like a lifeline. "Have you found anything more about their parents?" "Yes and no, Supreme Overlord," Veltor said nervously. "The records are all there, but when I dig deeper, things get strange. Dr. Sarah Chen has published papers on theoretical physics, but the math in them is so advanced that our best scientists can't understand it. They say it's either nonsense or so far beyond us that it might as well be magic." "And the others?" "Admiral Roberts' military record shows he retired after 20 years of peaceful service. But there are gaps. Entire months where he was supposedly on training exercises, but no one can say where. The Okonkwo parents have worked on 17 different diplomatic missions that all succeeded perfectly. Too perfectly. Every single one ended with all parties getting exactly what they wanted, which is statistically impossible. And the Petrov-Wade family?" Veltor's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're listed as librarians, Supreme Overlord. But when I searched deeper, I found references to something called the Akashic Archive. Our intelligence says it doesn't exist, but sometimes our secure databases update themselves with information that no one entered. Information that turns out to be perfectly accurate. The updates are always signed AA with a smiley face." Inside the habitat, Leo suddenly looked up, his bright blue eyes focusing on something no one else could see. "Oh, Mr. Veltor is reading about my dad's." "Hi, Mr. Veltor." He waved at empty air. "Yes, the Akashic Archive is real. Daddy Alexei says hi. And Daddy Marcus wants to know if you've been eating properly. You skipped breakfast 3 times this week." Veltor dropped his data pad. How could he possibly know that?" Maya looked up from her work. "Leo knows lots of things. Last week he told me what you had for dinner before you even decided what to eat. He says time isn't as linear as people think. It's really more of a suggestion," Leo added helpfully, "like a river that mostly flows one way but has lots of little eddies and currents. My dad's taught me to see the patterns." Dr. Krexval approached Zarkhan, his 6 legs clicking nervously on the metal floor. "Supreme Overlord, I've been analyzing their genetic samples from the medical scans. What I found is disturbing. Speak. Their DNA is human, but it's been optimized. Every unnecessary sequence has been removed or improved. Their neurons fire 300% faster than baseline humans. Their muscle fibers are denser. Their bones are reinforced with carbon lattices, and their brains, Supreme Overlord, their brains have structures I've never seen before. It's like someone took human evolution and fast-forwarded it 1,000,000 years, then added improvements from a dozen other species. That's not very nice, calling us improved, Amara said, though she was too far away to have heard the conversation. We're just different. Everyone's special in their own way. My parents always say diversity is strength. Jack finished his exercises. Today he was bench-pressing weights that should have crushed a human child, and walked over to the window. He looked directly at Zarkon, meeting all 4 of the Overlord's eyes without flinching. You know, Mr. Overlord, you're scared of us, but you don't need to be. We're just kids. We're not here to hurt anyone. Then why are you here? Zarkon found himself asking, forgetting protocol. All 4 children exchanged glances, then smiled the exact same smile at the exact same moment. Our parents wanted to see what you'd do, Maya said simply. Humans are really good at tests. We test everything. Metals, chemicals, systems, people, entire civilizations. Are we passing? Zarkon asked, his voice unusually quiet. Leo tilted his head, his expression suddenly far too old for a 9-year-old. That depends. Our parents are very protective. They've been watching everything. They know how you've treated us, what you've fed us, every word you've said about us. That's impossible. Your security is cute, Maya interrupted, like a toddler's finger painting. Colorful, enthusiastic, but not very effective. I broke through it on day 1. I've been sending daily reports to Mom. The lights in the entire station flickered. When they came back on, every screen was displaying the same message. Our children say you're treating them well. That's good, keep it up. Concerned parents. Zarkon felt something he hadn't experienced in 300 cycles. Genuine fear. Not of armies or weapons, but of the unknown. These weren't just human children. They were something else, something his empire had no frame of reference for. What are you? He whispered. Amara stood up, abandoning her 19th consecutive puzzle solve. We're the future, Mr. Overlord. Humanity's future. Our parents made sure we'd be ready for the galaxy. And the galaxy. She smiled, a sweet, innocent smile that somehow contained infinite possibility. Might not be ready for us. 3 weeks had passed since the children arrived, and Zarkon had just finished another sleepless night cycle. His 4 eyes burned with exhaustion as he reviewed security reports. The human children hadn't done anything harmful, but their mere presence had disrupted the entire station. Staff productivity was down 40%. 3 scientists had requested immediate reassignment. The security chief had started carrying prayer beads from his home world. The throne room's massive doors suddenly chimed. Veltor scurried in, his scales pale with panic. Supreme Overlord, we have an unexpected visitor. Who dares arrive at my station without permission? A human woman, Supreme Overlord. She's alone. Her ship just appeared. Our sensors didn't detect it until it was already docked. Impossible. Our sensors can detect a speck of dust from 3 systems away. Yes, Supreme Overlord. That's what makes it unexpected. Zarkon rose from his throne, his 12-foot frame casting long shadows. Where is she now? She's in the waiting area outside. She says she's here to discuss her daughter. Before Zarkon could respond, every screen in the throne room flickered to life. A human woman appeared on all of them simultaneously, middle-aged, with Maya's same dark eyes and calm expression. She wore a simple gray suit that somehow looked more intimidating than any military uniform. Supreme Overlord Zarkon, the woman said pleasantly, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. I believe you have my daughter Maya in your collection. I'd like to discuss her return. You hijacked my communication system, Zarkon growled. I knocked, Dr. Chen replied with a slight smile. This seemed more efficient than waiting. May I come in? The throne room doors opened without anyone touching the controls. Dr. Chen walked in, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. She was tiny compared to Zarkon, barely reaching his knee, but she moved with absolute confidence. Behind her, the doors closed and sealed with a series of locks that weren't supposed to exist. You added new security measures, she observed. 17 additional encryption layers, quantum locks, and a rather clever temporal displacement field. It took me almost 3 seconds to get through them all. Maya would be so proud. Zarkon's guard captain moved forward, but his plasma weapon wouldn't activate. He pulled his back up, dead. His blade wouldn't even leave its sheath. "Please don't threaten me," Dr. Chen said without looking at the guard. "It makes this conversation unnecessarily tense. I'm just a mother concerned about her child. Though I must say you've treated them well. The habitat is quite comfortable. How are you doing this?" Zarkon demanded. "Humans don't have this technology. Your species just discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago." Dr. Chen laughed, a sound like silver bells that somehow made every Zarathi in the room shiver. "Oh, my dear Overlord. We discovered FTL travel 300 years ago. We just didn't tell anyone for 250 of those years. We wanted to watch first, learn about our neighbors before introducing ourselves." She pulled out what looked like a simple data pad and began scrolling through it. "Let's see. The Zarathi Empire established 4,127 standard years ago, conquered 1,047 star systems, subjugated 23 species, protected 15 others, though your definition of protection is rather loose. Annual military budget of 4.7 trillion credits, 17 active fleet commands, 3 secret weapon development programs. Oh, the Omega project is particularly interesting. Shame about the calculation error in line 7132 of the code. You'll want to fix that before testing unless you want to accidentally create a black hole." Veltor's datapad started smoking. He dropped it with a yelp. "Sorry," Dr. Chen said. "My presence tends to overload primitive electronics. Where was I? Oh yes, you have my daughter. She is part of my collection now," Zarkon said, trying to maintain his authority. "The humans agreed to our protection. That gives me certain rights." "No," Dr. Chen interrupted softly. "It doesn't." Every weapon in the throne room suddenly disassembled itself. Pieces floated gently to the ground like metal snow. The guard stepped back in fear. "Let me explain something about humans, Overlord." Dr. Chen continued, her tone still conversational. "We're very good at pretending to be weak. It's a survival trait we developed early. Appear harmless, learn everything about potential threats, then decide how to proceed. We've been doing it for thousands of years." She touched her datapad, and holographic displays filled the air around them. Star maps, but not like any Zarkon had seen. These showed layers of information. Hidden human installations, cloaked fleets, observation posts in the heart of every major civilization's territory. "The Prometheus Protocol," Dr. Chen explained. "My life's work. 15 years ago we released nanobots into the galaxy's trade networks. Microscopic, self-replicating, virtually undetectable. They're in your food supply, your water, your air. They're in the metal of your ships, the circuits of your computers. They're even in you, Overlord. About 3 billion of them currently mapping your neural pathways." Zarkon's scales turned white. "You infected us?" "Infected is such an ugly word. We inoculated you. The nanobots are harmless unless activated. Then they can do—" She waved her hand, and every light in the throne room formed a perfect spiral pattern. "Whatever I want them to. This is an act of war. No, it's insurance. We've watched species like yours for centuries. Conquerors who mistake might for right. We could have revealed ourselves, fought you, probably won, but that would have meant billions dead on both sides. So we chose a different path. We prepared." The screens around them shifted to show human colonies, not the few dozen the Zarathi knew about, but hundreds. Massive cities floating in space, entire moons converted to habitats, ships that bent reality around them like cloaks. "We have a population of 47 billion spread across 400 systems," Dr. Chen said. "Our technology is roughly 300 years ahead of yours, conservatively. We could end your empire in approximately 6 minutes if we chose to, but we don't want to. Then what do you want?" "My daughter back. All 4 children, actually. Their parents are getting impatient. And if I refuse—" Dr. Chen sighed and pulled up a new display. It showed Zarkon's entire fleet. "Watch," she said. "Every ship in the Zarathi Armada, thousands of vessels across dozens of systems, simultaneously shut down. Life support remained, but weapons, engines, communications all went dark. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. That was me being polite," Dr. Chen said. "I could have vented them all into space. I could have turned their weapons on each other. I could have deleted every piece of data in your entire civilization. But I didn't. Because despite what you might think, humans don't want to conquer or destroy. We want to teach." "Teach?" Maya wasn't lying when she said this was a test. We wanted to see if the mighty Zarathi Empire could evolve beyond taking what they want, if you could learn to see other species as equals, not collectibles or subjects. Zarkon's mind reeled. Everything he thought he knew about humans, about the galaxy's power structure, was wrong. The other parents, are they like you? Dr. Chen smiled. Oh, they're much worse. I'm the nice one. I solve problems with technology. Admiral Roberts solves them with tactics. He commanded our Ghost Fleet during the Shadow Wars. The Shadow Wars are a myth. The Shadow Wars prevented 17 galactic conflicts you never knew were about to start. The Okonkwo twins prevent wars through temporal manipulation. They've literally erased conflicts from history. And Leo's fathers, well, they know everything. And I do mean everything. Every secret, every plan, every thought that's ever been digitized or quantum stored. She stood up, barely reaching Zarkon's knee, but somehow filling the entire room with her presence. So, Supreme Overlord, I'll ask once more. May I have my daughter back? Or do my colleagues and I need to demonstrate why humans chose to hide our true capabilities? For the first time in his 1,000-year life, Zarkon the Eternal felt truly small. He looked at the displays around him, at the evidence of humanity's hidden might, at this tiny woman who could end his empire with a thought. What happens if I return them? Then we continue as we have been. Humans remain officially a young, protected species learning about the galaxy. Unofficially, we keep guiding things toward a better future. Your empire prospers. Our children grow up safe, and maybe in time we can reveal the truth to everyone and work together openly. And if I keep them? Dr. Chen's pleasant expression never changed, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Then humanity stops pretending to be weak. Zarkon was still processing Dr. Chen's revelations when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Not attack alarms, visitor alerts. 3 more ships had appeared in the docking bay, again without any sensor detection. They simply existed where nothing had been moments before. My colleagues have arrived, Dr. Chen said calmly, checking her data pad. They were giving me a chance to handle this diplomatically, but patience isn't their strong suit when it comes to their children. The throne room doors opened, and 3 figures entered. First came a human male in a black military uniform devoid of any decorations, except a single pin showing Earth and 13 stars around it. He walked with the measured pace of someone who had never retreated from anything in his life. His eyes were the same green as Jack's, and they took in every detail of the room in a single sweep. Behind him came a couple, moving in perfect synchronization like they were 2 parts of the same organism. They wore matching silver suits that seemed to shimmer and shift, sometimes appearing to be in one location, then another, as if they existed in multiple places simultaneously. They had Amara's same intelligent eyes and confident bearing. Admiral James Roberts, the military man, introduced himself with a slight nod. Jack's father, Dr. Amelia Okonkwo and Dr. David Okonkwo, the couple said in perfect unison. Amara's parents. Where are Leo's fathers? Zarkon asked, noting the absence. They're already here, Dr. Chen said, gesturing to the air around them. They don't always find physical presence necessary. Every screen in the throne room displayed 2 faces. One, belonging to a pale man with sharp features and Leo's blue eyes, the other showing a darker-skinned man with a warm smile. Dr. Alexei Petrov and Dr. Marcus Wade, the faces said. We thought it best to attend virtually. Our physical bodies are currently maintaining the Akashic Archive's core systems. Can't leave that unattended. It's recording this conversation in 17 different dimensional frequencies. Admiral Roberts stepped forward, and Zarkon noticed that the man's shadow didn't match his movements. It seemed to be scouting ahead, checking for threats that didn't exist. Let's cut to the chase, the Admiral said. My son sent me his daily report. He says you've been decent to them, which is why my fleet hasn't decloaked in your system yet. Fleet? Veltor squeaked. What fleet? Our sensors show nothing. Admiral Roberts smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. Computer, show them Ghost Fleet Squadron 7. The air shimmered, and suddenly the tactical display showed 300 ships surrounding the station. They were unlike anything in known space. Geometrically impossible shapes that hurt to look at directly. Surfaces that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Weapon systems that the computer couldn't even identify. That's just one squadron, Admiral Roberts said casually. I have 12 more on standby. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's first deep space military project. We've been building them in pocket dimensions for 2 centuries. Your scientists say pocket dimensions are theoretical. We've been using them as shipyards. The Okonkwo twins stepped forward, and Zarkon felt reality ripple around them. His chronometer started showing different times, past, present, and future, all at once. We specialize in temporal warfare, Amelia said. The art of winning battles before they begin, David continued. Or after they've ended, Amelia added. Or preventing them from ever having existed, they said together. They pulled out a small device that looked like a crystallized flower. This is a temporal nexus point from your empire's founding. One small change here, and the Zarathi Empire never forms. Your species remains planet-bound. You personally are never born. Zarkon's 4 eyes widened. That's impossible. Temporal manipulation on that scale would require the power output of 17 stars? David asked. We have 23. They're in a pocket dimension outside normal time. We call it the Garden of Wen. We've already prevented your empire from falling 47 times, Amelia said matter-of-factly. Economic collapses, civil wars, plague outbreaks, alien invasions. We fixed them all before they happened. You're welcome, by the way. From the screens, Dr. Petrov's image leaned forward. Would you like to know what you're thinking right now, Overlord? You're wondering if we're bluffing. You're calculating the odds that this is all an elaborate deception. You're also thinking about the protein supplement you had for breakfast and wondering if it tasted off. It did. Your chef used too much sodium. How? The Akashic Archive records everything, Dr. Wade explained. Every thought that passes, through a quantum processor, every neural firing that generates an electromagnetic field, every piece of data that exists in any form. We know your government's codes, your personal passwords, the love poetry you wrote when you were young that you thought you destroyed. Zarkon's scales flushed purple with embarrassment. You violate the privacy of entire civilizations? We catalog it, Doctor, Petrov corrected. There's a difference. We don't judge, we just record. Though I must say your poetry showed promise. The metaphor about stars being the eyes of eternity was quite beautiful. Enough showing off, Dr. Chen interjected. We're not here to humiliate the Overlord. We're here for our children. Are we? Admiral Roberts asked, his tone sharp. Because from where I stand, the Overlord kidnapped 4 human children. In my day, that was an act of war. It still is, the Okonkwo twins said. In 17 different timelines we've observed. This leads to the complete dissolution of the Zarathi Empire within 3 years. Gentlemen, ladies, Zarkon said, trying to regain some control. I understand you're upset, but surely we can reach an agreement. We already have, Dr. Wade's voice came from the speakers. 15 minutes ago you decided to return the children. You just don't know it yet because you haven't finished processing the logical chain of thoughts that leads to that conclusion. Beltor dropped to his knees. Supreme Overlord, these aren't humans. They can't be. Humans are a Class 3 civilization. Barely spacefaring, We're exactly what humans become when they decide to stop fighting each other and start preparing for the galaxy, Dr. Chen said. 300 years ago, Earth was dying. Wars, climate collapse, resource depletion. We had a choice. Continue on that path and perish, or evolve. We chose evolution. The first generation developed the technology, Admiral Roberts continued. The second generation enhanced themselves. The third generation, our children, were born enhanced. Every human child now has the potential to reshape reality, if properly trained. Which brings us to why we allowed this test, Amelia Okonkwo said. The galaxy needs to be prepared for what humanity is becoming. Our children aren't anomalies. They're the standard for their generation. In 50 years, every human will have capabilities that exceed your current understanding of physics, David added. We need to know which species will accept this and which will try to destroy us from fear. Zarkon looked at the 4 humans, 5, counting the virtual presence, surrounding him. Each one alone could destroy his empire. Together, they were effectively gods. And these were just 4 sets of parents. Earth had billions more. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. "Partnership," Dr. Chen said. "Real partnership, not the subjugation you call protection. Humanity is willing to share our advances, our protection, our knowledge, but only with species that can see us as equals, not as subjects or threats." "The children were never in danger," Admiral Roberts said. "We've been monitoring everything. If anyone had tried to hurt them, well," he gestured to the ghost fleet still visible on the displays. "Let's just say response time would have been measured in nanoseconds." "Actually," Dr. Petrov's voice interjected, "the children were protecting your staff. Leo prevented 3 accidents that would have occurred due to equipment failures. Maya fixed 17 systems that were on the verge of collapse. Jack stopped a fight between crew members that would have resulted in deaths. And Amara has been secretly reorganizing your supply chains to be 34% more efficient." "They were helping us?" Veltor asked in disbelief. "It's what humans do, Doctor," Wade said. "We fix things. We protect people. We guide civilizations toward better futures. Sometimes openly, usually in secret. Your empire exists because we've been maintaining it from the shadows for the past decade." Zarkon felt his worldview crumbling. Everything he thought he knew, every assumption about power and dominance was wrong. Humans hadn't been conquered or protected. They had been protecting everyone else while pretending to be weak. "So," Admiral Roberts said, his hand resting casually on what looked like empty air. But what Zarkon somehow knew was a weapon beyond his comprehension. "What's it going to be, Overlord? Do we take our children and leave you to wonder what else we're capable of? Or do we start an actual partnership where humanity stops hiding and starts helping openly?" The throne room fell silent except for the quiet hum of impossible technologies and the sound of an empire's most powerful being, realizing he was standing before something far greater than he had ever imagined. Zarkon stood in his throne room, surrounded by beings who could end his existence with a thought, and made what would later be remembered as the most important decision in Zarathi history. He was about to speak when Dr. Chen held up her hand. "Before you answer, I think you should see something," she said. Every screen in the throne room shifted to show the habitat where the 4 children were kept. But something was different. The children were not in their restricted quarters. They were in the station's main command center, sitting at control panels, chatting with Zarathi staff who were actually laughing at something Leo had said. "What? How?" Veltor stammered. "Oh, they've been leaving the habitat since day 2, Dr. Marcus Wade's voice explained from the speakers. "We thought you knew. Leo mentioned he'd been having lunch with your engineers all week." The screen zoomed in on Maya, who was elbow-deep in a massive computer core alongside 3 Zarathi technicians. "See, if you reverse the polarity here and add a quantum stabilizer there, your processing speed increases by 400%, she was explaining. The technicians were taking notes like eager students. Another screen showed Jack in the training facility, but not fighting. He was teaching a group of young Zarathi guards something that looked like a mixture of dance and martial arts. "It's not about defeating your opponent," he was saying. "It's about understanding them. Every species moves differently. Learn their movement, learn their culture, learn them as people." Amara was in the station's strategic planning center, surrounded by military officers who were listening intently, as she explained something on a holographic display. "Your defensive formations are based on old assumptions about weapon capabilities. But if you adjust here, here, and here, you become 67% more effective without any new equipment." And Leo was in the medical bay, holding the hand of a sick Zarathi child while medical staff worked. "Don't be scared," he was saying softly. "The doctors here are really good. And look, I can show you a trick with the lights that makes rainbow patterns. They've been helping us," Zarkon said slowly. "This entire time they've been helping us." "Of course they have," Admiral Roberts said with the first genuine warmth in his voice. "They're kids, human kids, and human kids are taught from birth that strength means helping others, not controlling them. My boys haven't been prisoners," Veltor whispered, looking at a screen where several staff members were teaching Leo a Zarathi card game. "They've been guests, friends. The habitat was never locked, Dr. Amelia Okonkwo said. They could have left any time. They stayed because they were curious about you. They wanted to learn about your species, your culture, and because they knew you needed help. Dr. David Okonkwo added, your station was running at 61% efficiency. It's now at 89% thanks to their suggestions. Zarkon watched the screens, seeing his fierce warriors learning dance moves from an 11-year-old human, his top scientists being tutored by a 12-year-old girl, his strategic command reorganizing based on advice from a 10-year-old. It should have been humiliating. Instead, it was enlightening. Computer, he commanded. Show me the children's actual activities for the past 3 weeks. The display shifted to a compilation. Maya had repaired 347 system failures, preventing 3 catastrophic decompressions. Jack had mediated 14 disputes between crew members, preventing violence each time. Amara had reorganized the station's entire operational structure, saving millions of credits. And Leo had somehow become everyone's favorite little brother, brightening the days of homesick crew members, helping in the medical bay, even tutoring struggling students in advanced mathematics. They conquered us, Zarkon said with sudden understanding. Not with weapons or threats, but with kindness, Dr. Chen finished. The most powerful force in the universe, and the one most species forget about when they reach for the stars. Zarkon's massive form seemed to shrink as he sat heavily on his throne. For 1,000 years, the Zarathi have believed that power came from strength, from domination. We built our empire on the principle that the strong rule the weak. And where has that gotten you? Admiral Roberts asked, not unkindly. 1,000 years of war, rebellion, and fear. Your subjects don't love you, they fear you. Your allies don't trust you, they submit to you. You have an empire, but do you have a civilization? Show him the Earth feeds, Dr. Petrov's voice suggested. The screens changed to show Earth. Not the Earth the Zarathi knew from their limited intelligence, but the real Earth. Cities that floated in the clouds, underwater habitats that glowed like jewels in the ocean depths, forests that had been restored beyond their original glory, and everywhere, humans and hundreds of alien species living together, working together, laughing together. We have refugees from every war in the galaxy, Dr. Wade explained. Species you've conquered, species that fled the conquering, species that just needed a new start. They come to Earth because we don't ask them to kneel. We ask them to contribute. Your primitive Earth is the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, Zarkon said. It wasn't a question. We prefer differently advanced, Dr. Chen said with a smile. We focused on different things. While you built weapons, we built schools. While you conquered worlds, we studied them. While you demanded submission, we offered partnership. A new figure materialized on the main screen, an elderly human woman with silver hair and kind eyes. This is President Martinez of Earth, Dr. Chen introduced. She wanted to speak with you directly. Overlord Zarkon, the president said warmly. I've been following the situation. I want you to know that we don't blame you for taking our children. In your culture, it was acceptable, but cultures can change. People can grow. The question is, will you? What would you have us do? Zarkon asked, and for the first time in his long life, he genuinely wanted to know the answer. Start by releasing the other specimens in your collection, the president suggested. All of them. Send them home to their families. Then perhaps we can discuss how the Zarathi Empire transforms from an empire into something greater. And if my people resist, if they see this as weakness, then we'll help you show them strength, Admiral Roberts said. Real strength. The strength to admit mistakes, to change course, to grow, and if anyone tries to take advantage of your transformation. The ghost fleet flickered visible for just a moment, a reminder. We'll be watching. Zarkon stood and walked to the window overlooking the habitat. The children had returned there and were now having dinner, but they'd been joined by a dozen Zarathi crew members who had brought their own food. It looked less like a prison and more like a family meal. Veltor, he commanded, release all specimens in the collection. Arrange transportation to their homeworlds. Full diplomatic courtesy. All of them, Supreme Overlord. All of them. And remove the word specimen from our vocabulary. They are guests, unwilling ones, but we will correct that. He turned to the human parents. Your children may leave whenever they wish. Though, he paused, showing uncertainty for the first time. I hope they might stay a few more days. My people have grown fond of them. And it seems we have much to learn. The parents exchanged glances. On the screen, President Martinez smiled. Why don't we ask them? Dr. Chen suggested. The communication system connected to the habitat. Kids, Dr. Chen called. You're free to come home. But the Overlord is wondering if you'd like to stay a few more days as actual guests, not prisoners. The 4 children looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that transcended normal communication. Can we, Mom? Maya asked. I haven't finished upgrading their quantum cores, and I promised Engineer Cracks I'd teach him about fusion. Please, Dad? Jack added. The guards want to learn more about human martial arts philosophy. And they're teaching me their history. The real history, not the propaganda version. We're making real progress on their economic models, Amara said. Another week and we could increase their efficiency by 40%. And I'm learning so much, Leo exclaimed. Did you know the Zarathi have 17 different words for loyalty? And Sub-Commander Texvar is teaching me to play their musical instruments. Listen. He produced a haunting melody on what looked like a crystalline flute. The parents looked at each other, then at Zar Khan. One condition, Admiral Roberts said. Full protective detail remains. Our ships stay in the system, cloaked but present. And daily check-ins, Dr. Chen added. Full biometric scans. And, the Okonkwo twins said in unison, we reserve the right to temporarily reverse any negative events. Agreed, Zarkon said immediately. Then more quietly, Would you consider staying as well? We have much to discuss about the future. About partnership. About changing an empire into something better. Dr. Chen looked at her colleagues, then at the screen where President Martinez nodded. We'll stay, she said, but not as conquerors or even as teachers. As friends, helping friends find a better path. Over the next week, the transformation of the Zarathi Empire began not with grand proclamations or treaties, but with small moments. Maya teaching engineers to see technology as art, not just function. Jack showing warriors that strength could protect instead of destroy. Amara helping strategists think in terms of prosperity, not conquest.